We're just kind of jumping the agenda around a little bit. We have the gentleman here for the health insurance plan. There's a new plan in place that's going to occur in 2015. So we're going to actually take number 6 and bring you guys up to the top of the run. So, gentlemen, I know you gave us handouts, so the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Jason. Good evening. My name is Brian Savage. I'm representing Ohio Insurance Services. Frank Harmon, also with Ohio Insurance Services. Come out. I thought we'd make a quick introduction and share with you a little bit about the decision-making process that we went through this year, and briefly share some of the changes that are going into the plan. I work for Frank, actually. This company's been around since 1995, focusing on working with public entities, and we're proud to say that we've got over 250 communities that we service here in the state of Ohio. All of our clients are in the state of Ohio. And we specialize, like I said, working with the public entities, but we've also worked to put together the Ohio Public Entity Consortium. I'm not sure if some of you may have heard of this before. And the Ohio Public Entity Consortium is a group that we use to help the communities come together to access strength, stronger benefits, stronger negotiations, and specifically for your group, we've actually put together a cooperative that brings together over 3,000 lives. So we have the purchasing power and the credibility of a very large group, and that's the advantage, and that's why a lot of the groups are coming into this program. When we went through the proposal process with your group, we shared a lot about our agency, a lot about our accreditations, references, those things. We were proud to have the opportunity to work with you. When we actually got into your program, our goal was to create value. And there's a lot of different ways that that's being done in the marketplace. Our belief is that you create value not necessarily just by making things less expensive or taking away benefits, but doing your very best to streamline benefits, add benefits if possible, but keep costs down. That's our value proposition. We went through each of your lines of coverage, so medical, dental, life, and vision. Some of those lines of coverage were already very much in line with the market or more competitive than the market, and we actually recommended no change. Kind of the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Now, we did find some areas where we thought there were opportunities, and we worked closely with your administration. The goal was to create a plan that was within budget, that offered a nice benefit to the members, and had good long-term sustainability. That was the concept that we were working towards, and I believe we've done that. We've actually built a plan, and you'll see on this first page, we've built a plan that works in the same fashion that yours had previously. It actually has the same deductibles, the same co-insurance, the same drug cards. It works all the way through. Now, one difference, we've built in a wellness program that your city hadn't had previously. At the end of the day, you can do a lot of different things to negotiate better deals or structure benefit designs in such a way to keep costs down, but you can't change what doctors prescribe to your members or what accidents occur throughout the year. The only way to cut costs from a health perspective is to implement a wellness plan. Now, there's a lot of different versions of wellness plans out there nowadays. This I would consider more of an entry-level basic wellness plan, but for a group that hasn't experienced or hasn't had some of these credits to earn previously, this is a great way to start. And what we've done is it not only is going to reward the city in the long run with reduced costs, it's proven that that's the best investment available for health plans, but it's also going to reward some of your members that earn these wellness credits. They'll have the ability to actually lower their deductible by $500 for a single or by $1,000 for a family. When it's all said and done, we're able to offer this plan, which is the same plan with the opportunity to earn wellness credits. We did include a dental program that I think is going to work well for your members. And the projected cost of this plan, if you flip to the next page, are very much in line with what you had previously. So we believe that there's a lot of value put together in this proposal and in this decision. The way we looked at this, coming from the self-insured program you were with Coventry, there were fixed costs and variable costs. And with that, some of those variable costs are just a projection. It's an assumption. And your fixed costs from 2014 to 2015, the ones that we know are in place, they actually, you're experiencing an increase. Those variable costs that we don't know which direction they're going to go, in your presentation was actually shown at a decrease. In working with your administration, looking at the different numbers, we didn't necessarily project a decrease, but we don't know what those claims are going to be. So it was interesting looking at this Coventry plan because it could have very well ran better than last year, or it could have ran, to the tune of $2.1+ million, and you're not sure where you fall in there. We did look at some fully insured options in the marketplace. We believe the most competitive fully insured option that was available was more expensive than the most you could have spent with a self-insured plan. And then what we also looked into was to have your group join our cooperative, which is kind of a blend of the two. It's a self-insured product with our large group, but to you it actually has some fixed costs associated, and the fixed costs happen to be in line with the type of dollars you were spending previously with the inclusion of the wellness plan and the inclusion of the dental. So that's where we ended up going after meeting with the administration and the unions. And I believe it's going to be great. I believe it's going to be an excellent value. We're going to come out and have employee meetings. The service levels we provide, I believe, are going to be a large upgrade to your members. What we learned in those insurance committee meetings, we learned that many of the members were having difficulty navigating their benefits. Our agency works almost as a boost to your HR department. When your members call in, we service them directly. We're able to call the carriers. We're even able to work with providers at times. And I believe that was maybe a little bit of a missing link in the benefits plan that you had in place, and we're excited to be able to offer that to your members. Also, in talking with a few of the representatives from the insurance committee, I believe they're also excited to begin working with us. I know that I've had several conversations with a few of the members, and each conversation becomes a little more cordial, a little more friendly, and I think they're seeing that we're all on the same team on this, so that's going to be excellent. I'd like to really commend Tim and Stacy as far as the administration that we get to work with. Their teams have been excellent in giving us the information that we needed to put this package together. Their motivation is, we work with a lot of these groups, and you can tell where the motivation lies when you're working with an administration. I really believe the motivation's in the right place. So we're very excited about this relationship. I do have a lot of information in this packet. I don't want to take too much time this evening. I wanted to make sure to introduce our company, our services, kind of the procedures we've been through to get to this place that we're in now. I would love to take any questions that you might have for us.
Greg, what I might suggest is if Stacy had any additional comments, then I wanted to make a very quick summary of where we're at and then open it up for any questions. If we could, I'd appreciate it.
I did just have a couple comments. I don't have the handout handy, but like he said, our motivation for doing this is for our employees. What we found by joining this consortium is the same costs, very similar costs, but a better product for what we paid last year. And with the addition of dental and the option to lower our employees' deductible. It also, adding the wellness is going to lead to a better workforce, hopefully a healthier workforce. We're encouraging these people, go get your physical, go get this, do these 5 very easy things, and hopefully we save someone from a heart attack. Hopefully we do that, small things that the average person does anyway. But now they feel better about going to the doctor, because I know plenty of people in this city that don't go to the doctor because they feel our benefits are terrible. So now we've given something, and they feel it's going to be too expensive. So now we've, working with Frank and Brian, they've given us a product that is also better from a budget standpoint, because now we don't have this swing. We get one thing I like that Brian mentioned was that the idea of the consortium is that they would predict, I believe, 3 out of 4 people would have, members in the consortium would have a great year. So the other people would carry the bad people in the consortium, people who had a bad year that year. So the idea of the fixed cost, but you still get the self-insured, price in a way, is that now we have a solid budget number. We're looking at 1.8. And what he didn't mention is, we actually get about $266,000 from our own employees. So the actual cost to the city, we're looking around the, 1.6 range, a little bit over 1.6 if we include the dental plan. In working with them, how many municipalities? 200 and some you mentioned, I think.
We're approaching 300.
Very few municipalities do not offer dental plans. We are losing employees in the city of Steubenville. It's important that we keep good employees, and this is a way to do it, all for the same cost. So that's why I think this is important. The other thing I wanted to note is if you look at the 2014 Coventry and the 2015, our premiums went up. So we don't have the option for last year's price anymore. They're going up, and we would have still been stuck with the same customer service, the same everything. Yes, we could hope that maybe our claims were down this year, but if I looked at last year, I wouldn't say that we had a bad year. I'd say 5 people max, even hit our stop loss. And in a group as small as our group, that 5 to 10 people swing, that could put us at $2.1 million overnight. So what this does, this puts us at a 1.8 solid cost, no questions asked. We know what the budget's going to be. Now we don't have any questions there. I just think it's an overall better product for our city.
Thank you, Stacy. If I can just summarize, we've appreciate council's authorization for us to go and procure the services of a health insurance broker this year. I think it was the right move to make. We basically have 2 options. We can stay where we're at with Coventry, or which is our current self-insured plan, or go to the new plan. It's a consortium of, I believe, 30 organizations. Brian, is that correct?
Our consortium, how many groups are in a consortium?
Yes.
Franken, we've got now
155, Tim.
about 155
Oh, okay.
groups are in the consortium program.
It's even better. It's a fairly large consortium. Our current plan, the risk, as Stacy mentioned, our costs are going to be somewhere between 1.6, could be as high as 2.1. Under the consortium, we would be at a fixed 1.8. We would have that certainty. It would be, in my opinion, a better plan because of the wellness aspect to it. It would also include dental. Very few communities, as was pointed out, do not have dental. We have increased customer service if we go with the consortium, and the consortium is under our proposed budget. So, in looking at our options, I think that my determination has been that the consortium is the better step for the city to go towards in 2015. So, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Tim, one of the things, the committee, cost containment committee, the city, they are looking at this new plan. Is that what the blessing of that committee?
That's a great question. Greg, we did have a meeting with the committee, had several meetings, but one just recently. You have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday. So if, we only have 2 options. So if there's, and again, I think the consortium is a better plan. If we can't get consensus, though, we'll stay with where we're at. But I would be very hopeful that we would have consensus on Thursday morning. I think the legislation, looking at it procedurally, the legislation that council has passed then allows me to go forward and get it done by the end of the year, which will be an exciting process.
Tim, did I hear Stacy say that it is a reduction in the contribution from employees?
No.
No.
No, the employee contribution
Stays
is still going to be the same.
Same.
Yes.
It's the same. Thank you.
And they would be paying for dental.
Yeah, basically what we're doing is we're adding value for the same exact cost. So that's
Same
why I would
proportion
like it.
for dental.
Okay.
One thing I did forget to mention is that with being in the consortium, because of, you can see the increase in our risk of premiums from last year to this year, same with the typical Coventry plan. The consortium, the the hope and the plan when talking to Brian and Frank is that, being in this consortium will allow the premiums to stay lower. So even though they could increase next year, they won't increase by the percent that they would have increased just us alone. So that's also a big advantage of being in the consortium.
I said 2.1 million, is that with their contributions or without their contributions? In other words, what's it costing the city?
That is without their contributions. So we would be looking
2.1
at,
plus what they ante up,
yes,
minus us council.
yes.
Thank you.
Just one quick question. Explain to me a little bit, and I apologize, was about the wellness part of
Sure.
of the plan, please, because I'm not familiar with it.
Sure, no problem. I believe it's on the last page of your presentation. What this does is your members, the card that they carry in their wallet will reflect a $1,000 deductible for individuals, and it will reflect a higher than $2,000 deductible for your family members. And so one of the areas that we focused on was how can we create value but also work towards a healthier group. And what we're able to do is we're able to allow those members to earn in $100 increments wellness credits that they can apply towards their deductible or even towards dental revision costs. And so what happens is if a member opts to opt out or to not participate in any areas of wellness, so let's talk about 5 key areas. Getting an annual physical, common sense good thing that your members on the taxpayer dollars should be doing. Tobacco cessation, so smoker, non-smoker, or willing to quit. They can get that credit if they're using tobacco and would like to quit. You can have physical fitness, you can have dietary, you can have online risk assessments. There's a lot of different ways to earn these credits, but your members are going to be able to go in and basically buy down their deductible by improving the group's health. We are going to monitor that. We believe we have not set the bar too high. We're not asking people to run a mile in 6 minutes or have a certain body mass index at this point, which actually, believe it or not the mile thing, that was a joke, but the body mass index and cholesterol testing and all these things, these are in groups. This is not an extreme type of wellness, and in fact, I would suggest that this is an entry-level wellness program that in the future would probably be modified. But does that help you to understand from a basic level how
So they actually have maybe there's a list in their packet of ways for them to earn wellness points.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest question
I think it's right there.
Yes, it's like for example, one is go get a physical. Another is if you're a woman, go get a mammogram. If you're a male, get a colonoscopy. Get a dental exam, vision exam, flu shot. We would even give people credit if they, the city gives flu shots. The city also, we just provide physical stuff. Things like that, we're already giving our employees, and now they would just get $200 worth of credit towards their deductible. So now, with the $200, they'd be $800 out of pocket deductible as opposed to the $1,000. So this is giving them an opportunity.
With a group of your size, I'm absolutely confident that you're going to have several members that probably haven't had a physical in quite some time, and when they go in, I still believe that the doctors that we have in this country are the finest doctors in the world. When they go in to see their doctors, they're going to offer ways to help their health, and some of the members, unfortunately, are going to find that they have health conditions they weren't even aware of. But catching those earlier is a huge difference in cost compared to having a catastrophe later. So everything about this wellness program is the right thing to do.
We get a healthier workforce if our employees take proactive steps to improve their health. They get to, as you said, limit their deductible, and we get a healthier workforce.
That's right.
There's a lot of things thrown in with this, not only the wellness. And the other thing we looked at is what would it cost just to simply provide a $500 deductible? Well, if not everybody uses that deductible, it was going to cost more than what we're doing with the wellness. Plus, with the wellness, we're actually getting buy-in and engagement from your members. They're not only doing something to help themselves, but they're doing something to help our whole group. So I think that's a really great program to put in for 2015, and I think it'll really pay dividends in the long haul.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Is there anything else that I can help with? Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you guys around.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
I just had something that was.
Tim, now we're getting these pages passed out. We'll go back up into the order and start with the November 2014 financial reports, which were emailed to us. And I'd like to have Stacy give a synopsis of where we stand through the end of November, and then we'll open up to any members of council who have questions. And Tim, Mayor, as well, if you have questions.
Thank you.
Greg, go monthly reports?
2014.
Okay.
2014 November report.
This is actually, if you brought your budget book, you actually have a report right in front of you. It's in section 10 of the budget book. If you look at our income tax, we are still up 2.73%, which is an additional $200,000. I did reflect this in the general fund budget, so that is a good thing to know. Other than that, I mean, there weren't any major changes. We all know our water fund is still operating in a deficit. And we all know where our sewer fund is. Greg, did you want me to give a more thorough update, or did you want me to start going through the budget book as we kind of discussed?
No, our income tax collection is up, and expenditures in general fund are below projections. So
Yeah,
those are two positive trends that we've continued throughout the year. But again, and I think we've seen these trends throughout the year. I think, if anything, those two items have improved in November, and I think we're moving towards at least stability, as I've mentioned in the past, as we get towards 2015.
We are projecting cash carryover. That's important. These are the November reports, though. Obviously, December, we're going to have a very true picture very soon. Everything is looking good from our end. We're after our employees to close out all their invoices, their POs, and I predict hopefully more carryover. But at this point, this is the most accurate picture that I can give based on the knowledge I have today.
Okay, I know a lot of the discussion is going to be on this book, so I'm going to let you slide in to this book to go over the budget, which will be adopting next week, the final permanent 2015 budget. But just a moment of clarification. Number 3, 2014 budget amendments, there are none at this time, so we don't even need to discuss that. So between the reports and the budget adoption, if you want to go over, and then just if anyone has any questions as she's going over, just please go ahead and ask the questions. So I know this book's next, so let's go ahead and move through it.
All right, so I'll just start with section 1 of the book. It is 2015 projected cash flow. This includes our revenue budget and expense budget. We also included the 2014 projected cash flow, the final revenue, and the final expense budget, just so you could make a comparison. 2015 is really the item that we're focusing on tonight as we pass, in our normal session of council, which would just be, passing our budget. So I think, we had our department head meetings. You all should know exactly where, what projected expenses we're having, but the first item is actually just showing our fund balances. I highlighted in section 1 of the book, I did highlight 4 items. One would be our, the ending balance in our water fund, which is at $104,752. I just want to be clear that end balance is only because we made a transfer earlier this year from the water reserve fund to cover that balance. And then if you look at our sewage fund, we've got a $2.3 million fund balance. If we look at our refuse fund, we've got about a $4.9 million fund balance. And another big one that gets a lot of use around here is it's actually very close to our general fund, which the balance that we're projecting, the ending balance as of 12/31/2015, we're projecting about $519,000 in our safety fund. So that's good. The safety fund, our auditors deem that is, and this is as I mentioned to you in the memo, that they deem this money, this is money we get from the Bureau of Workers' Comp. They deem this as pretty much just general fund money. We've tried to allocate it for safety purposes, supporting our police, fire, and any other safety initiatives that might help our employees, but that's typically the sole purpose for that money.
Stacy, on that safety fund, anything for 2014 from Bureau of Workers' Comp? Yeah.
Is reflected in there.
Or it's reflected in there for
Yes.
2014. Okay.
Yes, it is. I think I was just trying to look at any other funds, that we're projecting, major spending out of. That's about it. Another fund that I did want to bring to your attention, and, this is probably another conversation, but summer food fund, we have, gone in the hole on that program once again, as we did last year. So that's something important that, as a council, you may want to discuss, may want to just follow up. Also the swimming pool fund, these are great services for our residents. I'm by no means saying that we need to eliminate them. I am just bringing to your attention that, we do as a city, we need to figure out, a good way to figure out, how to better administer these programs for our residents. If I go to section 3, this has the official budget ordinances. These will just go to the county. This also just states where we're at, where our fund balances are. That's pretty self-explanatory. 4 is our capital improvement plan. This has really been a great tool, and Tim brought this in when he came from his other city, and this has been a great tool for us in finance, especially to leverage this capital improvement plan and putting it together. I would just encourage you that throughout the year, that when you are approving funding, that you take a look at this plan and you actually check, did you plan for this? And if not, I would encourage you to, challenge our department heads to understand why. I mean, I know emergencies come up and that's fine, but the point of this planning is to help you and to help us. It helps us a lot in finance, and it really helped Dave and I in the production of this budget in general. So I would encourage you to, and it also just there's a lot of things out there on the horizon that maybe we can't fund today, but we hope to be able to fund tomorrow. Things like the marina renovations, important things that economic development initiatives.
Just one word on that. Our approach in the administration is that with the CIP, and it's one that I've always tried to follow, is that, and the department heads understand this, that if a capital project is not listed on the CIP, then it doesn't exist. And this is the way we keep track of what we're trying to do and when we're going to try to do it and how we're going to do it and what it's going to cost us. So it is, it has a great deal of importance in our operations, and I think that will continue to grow in the years to come.
Section 5 in the book, this is our debt schedule. One of the things that, it's tough for a municipality, and it's, obviously dealing with debt. One thing that I know is tough for myself, and I think Councilman Johnson, he looked at this a lot with us, and it is that when we borrowed money in the past, no matter what it was for, there's a lot of money that it came at great rates, but one of the big issues is that we can't pay it back early. So that is, one thing to note is that anything on here, designated OWBA, OPWC, the majority of that debt, it cannot be repaid early. So, we are stuck with that debt. And I do just, I think that, we're looking pretty good as far as our debt. The only fund that our debt is relatively high, and it is concerning, is our water fund. We are, however, making great investments to hopefully sustain that system over the long run. But besides that, you can take a look at the debt schedule and see where we're at. But, we just want to be transparent, and we're trying to give you all the information, So next year, whenever you go into finance and you have questions, you at least have a basis. You can take this book and you can use this going forward. Number 6, this is our org chart. This is the most up-to-date org chart that we have in the city of Steubenville. Leslie, I want to give her credit. She worked very hard putting this together for us. We really appreciate that. Number 7 is our current TO with amendments. This basically tells you what each employee in the city's salary is and what their hourly rate is. It's a good guideline for me. I use it a lot. People say, how many firefighters do we have? How many police officers do we have? And, this document's a great document to reference when you get those questions from the public. Number 8 is it's our cost allocation plan. This is just basically how we pay for things in the city, how we break out the way we buy things. For example, if we buy something that affects, all our utility funds, we do allocate that according to, we allocate a certain percent to our refuse, to our water, and to our sewer. We don't pay for that out of one fund. So just so you're aware that not, buying one certain thing would not ever imbalance your fund significantly, because we do pay, prorated out of each fund. So that just sort of gives you a good deal, and it also tells you, how each employees are paid, that kind of thing. Number 9 is our explanation of levies. This just tells you, so we're all aware, I know we had an issue in the past where, there was a levy that didn't get on the ballot. This is just putting this out there for everybody to understand, to see when they're on, and so we can all hold each other accountable that we need to make sure that in May, our future levies that are going to be up for a new vote, make sure we get them on the ballot on time. Obviously, in finance, we've taken that upon ourselves to make sure it happens, but now everybody is aware that in May, we will be having a new election. And then the last item is our month-end reports, which I did just discuss earlier. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at these books, but I did also provide a summary sheet to the expense budget. I didn't think I needed to go over that again. Everybody does have that in front of them, which documents one of the main things in the budget.
I appreciate it. Stacy, I wanted to just, if I could, Greg, comment on that list a little bit. I think that the proposed 2015 budget, it doesn't have everything in it that we would like to, or that we even, that would make a tremendous impact, but I think it has, it's prioritized on the initiatives and projects that I think we'll get the greatest return from. In water, water meter replacement, the very first item, residential, the administration had mentioned that it would wrap up the large meters in 2014. I believe we have one left, or none left, so there's one left. So I've asked the law director to help me on that one. But, that was important. Now we need to do the residential meters in 2015. We had 2 water line projects this year. We're going to wrap up Scioto Drive and Harvard. We're going to be doing Buena Vista and Loretta next year. So that is substantial improvements in our water system that will be done in 2015 if this budget were to be adopted. The demolitions, that's a tremendous initiative to go forward with. From a roadway standpoint, the work on the design of some of the different phases of Lover's Lane to go forward. Again, the work on and proposed Mull Drive and Fort Steubenville Drive improvements. Again, these are, I think, very far-reaching projects. Something we've got in this budget that we haven't had in the past. Economic development initiatives such as downtown revitalization, increased resources to our Port Authority, improvements to the downtown in the parking lots, and striping again. Also, a new street sweeper for an investment of $200,000, keeping our fleet up to where it needs to be for us to serve our residents. The police vehicles would include 2 new cruisers, the K-9 vehicle, and we will be down to only 2 of the older Crown Victoria vehicles after 2015. Other vehicles that we need in water, wastewater, recreation, equipment in street department, improvements to our facilities, also investments in our park system, our emergency plan. That's one of our core documents that funding would be available for. I didn't even mention hydrant replacement. That is a key element of our initiatives in water. Funding allocated for oil and gas initiatives and economic development. Evaluating our water system and Civic Plaza project. That's another downtown revitalization project. So I think throughout this budget we see a very strong effort at addressing a number of areas that perhaps we haven't hit as robustly in the past, but we do, and we hit those square on in 2015. As I stated, I think we've tried to stabilize our budget in 2014. I think 2015 is a year where we can significantly move ahead in some very important areas in the city. And with that, I know Stacy and I would be happy to answer any questions on the proposed 2015 budget.
Stacy, how can we get into the red in the summer food program if we get a check from the federal government and we spend it and it's gone? And I thought after the check comes, food's gone, the help's gone, it ends. This is the second or third time this has happened. I don't believe it on the spot.
Would you like me to?
Well, let me start it off, and if we need more details. I think the major cost item that I recall in 2014 was that the state had determined that we could not use Sodexo employees for it, and that they had to be city employees. And I would point out that direction from the state came after the grant was approved and after we were up and running. But that was I think that was a significant portion of our issues. Shouldn't be an issue in 2015. But you're right, and I think Stacy's absolutely right. We need to continue to focus on that program and manage it as tightly as we can.
Just something else I'll add is that ideally you would get 100%. What we found, and this is my first year dealing with it, I think we brought Mary Beth on a little bit late into the
Yeah,
program where the person running it, it was still brand new. But one of the issues with the grant is that if the kids don't show up that day, for example, if it rains and kids don't come, well, we only get reimbursed for the meals that they give out. So we have to eat those meals that aren't served that day.
Not literally.
Yeah, not literally. So this contributes to, some costs in the program because we are providing this program for our residents. But if we have a site that day at the park and obviously the weather's not right, then, you're gonna get a lack of attendance. But all she can do is make estimates on how many kids are gonna come based on, what she might know. Or I think one of the changes, and I know I spoke to Tim about this already and Mary Beth, was that we're gonna scale down our sites, so it makes it a little bit easier to manage. I think last year we had 8. Did we have 8? Or no, we had 10, and now we're gonna go down to 8. Okay.
Go down.
Yeah, so we are going down a couple sites to make it a little bit easier to manage. But we do still want to maintain that presence in those neighborhoods and at those churches that it is important to have that.
As long as they use it.
Yes, but it's just, it's a tough program to manage. The state only wants to pay for, when a kid gets a meal, and it is difficult. It does require a daily reassessment. And I do think Mary Beth has done an excellent job at taking it and running with it, but it was just a transition period. So I think, in the future, we'll do better.
And if I could add to that, too, I think the last time we had an issue, it was in transition also between our park directors. So it's very important to have that person in place to make sure the grants are written properly. That was a big thing, I think, a couple of years back, and then to manage it as well. So.
And to tackle on the ordinance number 2014-145, Tim, is the ordinance transferring $12,400 from the general fund to the summer food program 28 to cover the deficit on there. So very good question, John. Again, that is on the docket tonight to get that finalized and cleared up.
Yeah, I have a couple questions on section 9, page 2, which talks about when we should place the renewal of the income tax. It currently says the tax expires May 3rd, and the page is saying the tax will need to be approved by the voters in the May election. So if we stay with that, we're going to be short again. So I believe that needs to be changed.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Thanks, but I'm going to ask Stacy, and we're talking about May of 2016.
Yes.
And
Wait, let me look at this. It is May, and I know, Mike, we spoke about this. We did clarify that there is no lag. So if you, I think it says it's up May 3rd, right?
Correct.
So if the election is May 9th, we'll say.
May 5th, I think.
Yes, so there's no lag in the collection. That it applies to that month. If we put it on earlier in November, what we would be doing as a city? We'd be shorting ourselves the November, December, January, February. We'd be shorting ourselves like 7 months because that renewal is for 5 years. So if we did it in November, then we're getting a shorter renewal. Gary, do you want to elaborate on that? But there is no.
I mean, any election doesn't take. After the vote is certified, it takes effect, all right?
Oh, yeah, it takes effect the next day. Like, the ordinance will read May 3rd, to be in effect May 4th, 2016, to May 5th, or May 3rd, 5 years later. So yeah, there's no lag time. It goes right into effect. Plus, we can't do it any...
You can't do it in November and say, this is for the period May 4th, 2016, for 5 more years after that, to 2021. I mean,
well,
because technically you're voting on a tax that's already expired.
And then we, like last time, what we did, we had to spend more money to to push a special election. We had to pay that.
That's right. So we don't want to pay any special.
Well, that's why we want to go in May. I mean, if it's up in May, we have to go in May. Right.
My concern is that you already have the money from November to May. So if you put it on earlier, then you're
Well, if you put it on in November of 15 and say this is for a 5-year renewal starting on May 4th,
Okay, I see.
2016, then we pass a tax before it expires. I just don't know if you can you retroactively pass a tax increase?
No.
Well, that's what you would be doing.
No, you're not passing a retroactive tax increase like that.
This is a renewal.
If it expires on May
It's a
3rd
renewal.
and you don't vote till May 5th or 6th,
No, we're voting, right when that thing ends, we're voting that, that next day, so it's not retroactive or anything.
You could have a lag of a day in there. I mean, we talked in the past about what Willie just brought up. The fact we had that special election and it cost, money because of that, a lot of money. This thought of doing it in November with the wording starting in May, 4th, going on until, May 3rd, 2021, is to me the more proper. You're doing it several months ahead, to get ahead of the ball game.
We'll check it, we'll check it out, see if we can do it.
We're not scrambling in May if it doesn't pass.
If I could suggest something, I mean, this discussion has happened we've had this discussion a lot, and I have to ask that our finance director and law director write an opinion that clarifies this once and for all, and that we've got it solid, and maybe we have two options. We could go in November and in May, but we can't, I think we need to clarify exactly when we can go, and that we have no detrimental impact on the city, whenever we go.
Tim, will the election board allow you to go early like that?
Well,
That's the question.
that's what we have to.
I'm not aware of going early.
Right.
I understand the logic in doing it, but I just don't know if I can ever remember any community that I can recall doing it. I get the logic.
we need an opinion.
We need a final opinion, but this, I think this issue.
Well, the election board, it requires us to put it on 90 days early, so, but I don't
Correct.
know how, like, putting it now 360 days early or 7 months early would not
That's why I
seem-
just don't, I'm not familiar with communities doing it so far in advance. And I would have to think there's a reason, but I don't know what that reason is, and that's why I
Probably the Ohio Revised Code, somewhere.
I think yeah.
Check it out.
Mayor, do you have an opinion on it?
Well, the 90-day notice that the finance director is referring to is just like if you're a candidate for an office, you have to have a filing deadline to declare and place it on the ballot. So that's what she is making reference to. The Ohio election laws would not allow, they would prohibit you because then councils could say, in 2 years from now, we're going to put this on the ballot and convince the citizens that vote for this levy. It won't take effect for a couple of years and all. So there's a time period outlined in the Ohio election laws that prohibited the early. And as far as the expiration date, if it's the 3rd or the 5th, they go by the calendar year of that particular month. So we wouldn't be lost 2 to 3 days or a week or so.
We'll check it out.
Yes, keep going.
I got a couple other comments on the budget. First, Stacy and Tim and the department heads should be commended, because it does appear that 2014 is coming in under budget, and they should also be commended for maintaining our A+ bond rating. Now, concerning that A+ bond rating, my understanding is we received that rating because we had basically $2.8 million of reserve, and S&P, when they look at the reserve, they take into consideration our general fund balance and our safety fund balance. And in the future, they would take into consideration our general fund balance, our safety budget balance, and our general fund reserve balance. So I estimate those in the 2.7 range as of the end of this year. So we're pretty much even with what it was at the end of 13. However, this budget, the draft budget that we've been presented, it spends $700,000 more in the general fund than it takes in, roughly. If that happens, if we spend everything in this, if we adopt this budget and we spend everything in this budget, then at the end of the year, we'll have a balance of $2 million. And more than likely, we'll get our bond rating reduced from an A+ to an A-. And I think we have a responsibility to maintain our bond rating. So I think that needs to be addressed either through amendments coming up, because we clearly are spending $700,000 more than we're bringing in. And that's a concern, and that should be, the public should know that also, so.
Stacy, did you, I had a comment.
If I could just make a note, we've actually received, our bond money, and so we are going to be spending that money in 2015. So that adds to some of the lag, where it looks like we're spending a lot more in 2015 than we are in 2014. So that does create some lag. Also, the bond rating, it's important, but what I think is, and it's what Tim said for the budget, is that the spending that we're doing in 15 is important for the sustainability of what we're doing in this city, like purchasing streets, we're purchasing necessary equipment that's truthfully been neglected for many, many years. We are not, I don't feel that we're buying anything excessive. We're just making investments that need to be made, for our residents. I would love to pass a balanced budget. There's nothing I would love to pass more. However, this budget, just because it's in the budget, it doesn't mean we need to spend the money. We've allocated this money based on all of our department head meetings, what they're saying that they absolutely need. So that's important. And each time something big comes across, you all can vote it down no. So it doesn't mean this money needs to be spent, but this is my my best projection of what we're going to spend. I could have said, I think in water we're going to spend $100,000 in repair and replacement. We all know that's not true. It's more around $300,000 to $500,000 if we're having a great year. So it's stuff like that really does stretch where we're at. The bond rating, it's important. There's a lot of things that go into that bond rating. They look at our economics, they look at economic development, they look at tons of things. They don't just look at our general fund reserve. I just don't want that misconception to be out there. Yes, I think it's important. I hope that we don't have to go out and get bonds next year, and I hope we don't have to go out the year after, because we all know we have to pay the bill. I know this bond issue may have not been the most popular bond issue, but we only made the necessary items in the bond to get us through this year, and I do believe that put us in a better position in our water and sewer funds by doing it. But I just don't want you to focus on that, because like I said, you guys have the power to vote these things down, to say no later if you don't like where we're spending the money. If it's coming out of the general fund, question it every time, and there's no reason you shouldn't. But when I put this together, it would be impossible for me to pass a balanced budget, to give you a balanced expense budget and tell you that we are not going to exceed that, because we probably are. And with that being said, that is the reason why we keep exploring these other ways for revenue, because we are struggling each time just to get by. So I just wanted to clarify.
I appreciate it, Stacy. And Stacy took a lot of my thoughts, but a budget, again, these, particularly capital items, are going to come back to council again, as we all know, for authorization and approval. Budgets, we allocate the resources, but just as we did this year, no one spends everything in their budget. You don't do that. And that's why we've had carryover, and we because it's in the budget doesn't mean we spend it. And lastly, I just think, again, we'll monitor it throughout the year, and we have the amendment process, as Mike alluded to, and I think the budget as proposed, it certainly touches upon the most important initiatives that I think we've all heard throughout the year, certainly that I've heard in different meetings and citizens, and but again, we don't spend everything that's in the budget.
That's it from Mike. Any other members of council?
And just so I can understand just a little bit better, because I'm not used to looking at millions of dollars. Like my home budget is, every year I try to do some home remodeling, I try to put windows in one year, driveway the next. Is it fair to, I'm just going to use him for an example, Mr. Baird, and whatever we give Mr. Baird, if we give him the $1 million to buy equipment, and we tell him that, and then he makes his plans to buy this equipment and stuff, and then we have to turn him down, can we get into a closer range where we are fairly accurate with the spending? That's I guess my question. I'm not really keen on passing a budget that is $700,000, is that right, over what we actually have, knowing that the condition that our finances are in. And not to, I mean, the stuff that we're trying to do is definitely needed and it's long overdue, but I have a hard time understanding that $700,000 extra in the budget that we don't have and to pass it. And I understand well, because I had a budget when I was for the city for the traffic department. And I don't know, I just, a little closer maybe. Is there a way to come a little more closer, I guess, Tim?
Well, I think the 700,000 figure is we're in some regard talking apples and oranges, because that is the figure that I think our bond rating agency, Standard & Poor's, had again put those different funds together: general fund, safety fund, smothered funds, and it's not really what we're talking about in the budget, in this budget. So how to get it more closely, I mean, these are items that I think, as I said, we've all talked about. If they come up again, as they will with council, there's that opportunity to review and discuss them again in more detail. I don't know, Stacy, it's
the
the
vehicles that
oranges.
what you're referring to, Mr. Villamagna, is, and the M&R department is doing a lot of purchasing this year. You can see that in the budget. There is a lot of purchasing, but why we're doing a lot of purchasing out of that is because we have a surplus in our refuse fund, and we're spending more money out of that. I did just read earlier, I think roughly off the top of my head, like $4.6 million surplus there. That spending that we're going to do is spending that is long overdue. And that's why this next week you're going to be passed, hopefully sunshining an ordinance that allows more spending out of that refuse fund to use that refuse rate for things such as leaf collection, street sweeping, tree trimming, and that's where the excessive spending. So where it looks like we're spending a lot of money, we're spending it out of a fund where we have a huge surplus. So it is tough, and I know, but it's tough for the average person to just look at this budget and look at the the total number of revenue and expenditures, because what that does is it's a little bit distorted, because like I said, we just took in $7.8 million in 2014 that we're going to spend in 2015. So it shows this imbalance if you look at a total number. So I guess that's the concern that Councilman Johnson has, and I share that concern too, is that the general fund is always a concern. So when we spend items out of the general fund, that's where we should be concerned about. But the spending in the refuse fund, that would be the least area of my concern. And then obviously any spending in water is a concern, because we know that water rate is not enough to sustain our system. But the vehicle purchases, all of that, those are all coming out of refuse, where we do hold a very high surplus.
Yeah, I think, and
I just want to.
Bob brings up a great point. If we do amend the uses of the sanitation fund, that will, to a large extent, address things in Mr. Barrett's department. And having said that, I think the city has unfortunately, we've suffered by not having a replacement policy of vehicles. And I said, I think we waited too long in a lot of them, and the street sweeper discussion was a perfect example of where we just have waited too long to make these investments, and that's increased, what we're suffering is increased maintenance costs. Police department, as you know, Bob, just those kind of vehicles. So it's not an easy answer, but hopefully with some changes like to the sanitation fund uses and changing those vehicles, those are more, I guess I would say more investments than they are just expenditures. If we're going to get some return on those, because we won't have those maintenance costs, and we will be able to serve the citizens better, but it is costly, certainly.
Yeah, to be fair, in my example, I just used Mr. Baird in that department as an example. He was the first thing that came to my mind, but I just, all of them, police department, fire department, and everything, I know that we have waited a long time to replace these. My concern is that I don't want to be in a position where down the road we're going to say, we spent too much. And that's my concern. In the budget, the process, the hearings and everything were excellent. I mean, it's not, I just have some concern about that.
If I may suggest to the administration and maybe help clarify for Mr. Bill Magna also, in our discussions, we continue to mix our enterprise funds with the general fund in our discussions and the capital purchases and all. Maybe we should identify what's coming out of an enterprise fund or the general fund. Because Mr. Bill Magna and members of council, if you would look at the most recent report from the finance director dated December 1st for the November monthly collections and look at the general fund, we are still projecting at the end of 2014 a $1.7 million carryover to start us out into 15. And if you look at the end of 15, although we are somewhat deficit spending, as you're indicating, but you brought to our attention how we are not actually, because of that offset, we will still at what's projected for the end of 2015 is $1.2 million carryover to 16. So we need to keep that in light also, in perspective.
But that is deficit spending.
Well, if you're spending more than what you're taking in, but we have that carryover.
And my comments were towards the general fund. I mean, because eventually, if you spend more than, we have the carryover, just like a home person may have a savings account, but you can only dip in it so much. And at the current rate, that general fund will go into the black, into the red, and
2017 is projected.
in which the state will not allow that to happen. So this council does have to do something.
Absolutely.
Whether it's expenditures or whatever.
The state and we will not allow that to happen.
We can't.
Tim and Stacy, I would just like to commend you as my, ending my third year here on council. This is the first time that I've been able to be a part of the budget hearings and also to pass a permanent budget. I've been passing temporary budgets, which one year I was not even in favor of. But just wanted to say that I feel more confident after the budget hearings. I feel more confident after all of our finance meetings, and I think that you have brought a lot of clarity to the budget and the process that we went through the last couple of months. I only would like to just remind my fellow councilmen that we do have an obligation to make sure that we are spending money wisely, but we also have an obligation to take care of our city. And I think that this budget is moving in the right direction. It's just my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions on the 2015 budget? That will be in a special meeting next week, and we'll get that situated in the regular meeting. If there's any questions as the members of council continue to review this, please bring them up to Tim and Stacy. as we continue to review and soak in a lot of the data we received this evening as well too. The part and parcel to what I've had earmarked all night has been, which you just talked about, Mike, the general fund, which in 2017 goes into a negative projected of $21,000. We have talked about for several months, what are we going to do? How do we not deficit spend? How do we, either, cut down some expenditures, number one, which has always been talked about, but also, number two, what other future funding options? One of the things that Mike here brought up to us, and that there's a form tonight that I've asked Stacy to prepare, is something that will be on the agenda next week. It's the income tax rollback from 100% to 50% for those that are employed that live in the city of Steubenville and work outside the city. Stacy, you prepared a sheet that gives some examples. I had asked it. So I know you prepared this, but the key thing was asking what kind of financial impact it would have to our citizens. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we could at least elaborate that. It's about 17, but please go ahead and Stacey, I'd like to at least talk about this because this is on the agenda for next week.
Greg?
Yeah.
Myself and Mayor didn't get anything like that.
Oh, I passed, maybe held up somewhere.
Lily's keeping
They're all
up.
down here by Gary.
Okay.
That's it, blame it on the law director.
So what I did, I used the example of a Steubenville resident who works in Toronto and makes $50,000 a year. Just so we're all on the same page, currently, the city of Steubenville gives a 100% credit. So if you live here and you work in Toronto, the tax withheld for your workplace municipality, if you look, I have tax, I'm at the first section, the rate would be 2%, okay? In this case, the city of Steubenville would give the full 2%. So we don't get $1 off of that, okay? So in this case, the proposed 50% credit limit would now give us half of that. So it would give us the 1% of that money. And so the tax due to the city of Steubenville would be $1,500. So the overall impact on the typical person living here and working in Toronto would be $500. So they would now pay the current tax they already pay, plus an additional $500, which would come to the city of Steubenville. The idea behind that is, they live here, we provide services to them, safety services, those types of things. So the combined, it is an increase. I mean, it's a tax increase. It's a tax increase if you live here and you work elsewhere from the 2% to 3%. So this is just allowing the city of Steubenville to recoup this money. I did want to say that, and I don't know who asked, somebody asked how many residents would be affected by the change. We did inquire with REDA, and the estimated number of residents would be 1,100. That would be the number of income tax returns that were filed based on the most recent information was 5,600. So we'd be affecting 1,100 of those. This rollback of the 100% credit would generate an extra $200,000 in revenue. Like Mr. Johnson mentioned in the past, this could easily cover, 2 cops. This could do a lot, this extra $200,000. And that's for debate later, but it is revenue that the city could recoup quickly. The city could, quickly as in, we could start it in January. If we vote next week to pass it, then could go into effect in January. Now, I did make some notes here, which these were questions that were up for discussion last time, which was, we still contacted our REDA reps. It does typically take 3 years to realize the full effect. They confirmed that by saying that the first year credit, the first year the credit changes, the residents are filing the previous year tax by April 15th at the old rate. Okay? They say historically, it takes a full tax cycle in a completed filing season to get all residents to transition into the new rates or credits. At the end of 3 years, the residents who may not have filed correctly or have balances should have rectified all the changes. And the majority of that gets changed through our subpoena program, through that with Rita. So just to summarize, if that's sounding confusing, what it is the typical resident pays 2%. They pay 2% regardless. That's the city of Steubenville's tax rate is 2%. Now, normally we give a full tax credit to if they work elsewhere, and now we are asking to only give 50% of that credit. So now they would, but just so there's no misconception, now it is a tax increase on the resident who does live here and work elsewhere from 2% to 3%. So we're splitting the difference from a 1% increase because we were giving a full 2% credit. Now we're giving them a 1% credit. So we're still giving them a credit. We reached out to our RETA reps, and the majority of municipalities across Ohio are giving a 50% credit. Some are giving 100. The majority are in line with the 50%. So this is what we're asking for you to consider is the 50%, which you all can vote. It does not require a vote from the residents, and it could go into effect immediately. Basically, outside of this, the only way that we could go about generating other revenue for this city would not be until the 2016 or 2017 range. So this is the only way that today in 2014 we can make a difference as far as increased revenue.
Stacy, the one thing I asked is the self-employed individuals. Okay, and how the impact would be. I know that what you're talking about, I believe, is for those that are W-2 income. But if you're self-employed, you got to pay April, your estimates, June, okay. Those go to RETA. Would those be more creative in that particular year?
Yes, I would say so, yes. But the majority
so
of people...
2015. So
Yes.
is there a way not, I know you're estimating 1,100 residents affected by the change, but going back into the total number and then finding out those that might be self-employed that live in the city but may have a business, their place of businesses outside the city, maybe in Wintersville or Toronto, like you said, or Mingo, whether it's like an attorney, a doctor, or something like that.
This was the best number that we could come up with as far as an estimate. Like if you have a specific person or example, and everybody has their own individual tax situation, that can be addressed. And yes, you're right. If you're making those estimated payments, which most people are, then we would expect to realize that quicker. But this was their best estimates. This is the best estimate that I can provide you. The most information I have today.
Okay, so just so I understand, we pay 2% income tax, right?
Yes.
So if I live here and I work in Stratton, Stratton has a 1% city income tax, okay? So currently, I would pay 1% in Stratton and 1% here, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. 3%. Am I wrong to assume that I thought you only had to pay where you lived at? So at the end of the year, I thought I got the 1% back from Stratton. I was wrong, or that's not how it works?
No.
It
You
works-
still paid Stratton.
Okay, so I pay 1% here and 1% there, right?
Yes.
That would be the 2%.
Do you live in the city limits?
Yeah,
When do you pay 2% here too?
not the way.
With the current credit, you would not.
Right, yeah.
Okay, yes.
So then, so now I would pay 2% here regardless.
No.
No. I would pay.
1.5.
1.5.
Wait a minute. Let me talk to Stacy, and so she can explain it to me. So, then I would get a 50%, right? So I would pay 1.5% here
Yes.
and 1% to Stratton.
Yes.
Okay?
That's correct.
So then, if House Bill 5 passes, which it kind of looks like it's going to pass, right?
Yes, it
What
did
happened?
pass.
But didn't have to go to, because it's passed now? or-
That's the Senate, it went back to House.
Right, and then they have to ratify, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if they do, then that'll go into effect, so all our income tax that we pay, if I'm understanding correctly, will go to Columbus and be redistributed to other areas.
I don't
I mean-
understand it as that.
Okay, that's, call me out.
I can't tell you what's in the exact bill that the Senate has passed, because I believe it's changed since I was given information. But I think, you know, one of the goals of HB 5 is central collection at some point, but we'll still get the money. It's just gonna be a slower lag time. There'll be concerns with, you know, different specific rules into how we get that money, or when that money is due to us, or if it's due to us based on somebody worked here 10 or 20 days, you know. There's a lot of,
That's some of the provisions, like.
yes, those are a lot of the provisions.
I'm a construction worker from Cleveland, and I come down here to work in Steubenville on
Yes,
the Towers building or whatever. I'm only here maybe for 30 days, then that house, the rules, and there could be that they would not make me pay the income tax here. I've got to
Yes.
pay the police.
yes. Now that they're making provisions to loosen it up a little bit is the way that I most recently understood based on what it is today. But, so, when you bring up HB 5, that's a concern. It is definitely a concern of lost revenue for this city. It's a concern of lost revenue for all municipalities. So doing something like this just aligns us with other municipalities to be ready for it. This just provides us an extra $200,000, and I think puts us more in line with what other people are already doing.
Are there other cities in the state of Ohio that do what we're proposing here?
Oh, yes. The majority of them do actually only give a 50% credit. I'm not really sure why we ever set up a 100% credit. But, you know, it's, you know, I don't know. We've been with Rita as long as I can remember, and at the time, maybe it was just a great incentive. You know, there are plenty of reasons to give tax breaks.
So my last part with that house bill then would be, I live here, I work here, so I'm paying 2% income tax. So my money will still go to Columbus, is that how I understand that, or no?
No, it'll still come to the city of Steubenville. It just, if HB 5 passes, there's a provision in there that could allow Columbus to do central collecting. But there's been many changes since then.
Yeah, I know
That was, I
exactly.
believe, one initiative in it. I think the last I read, they were actually taking out the central collection thing. So, but regardless, the money that we take from our residents is coming back to the city of Steubenville
It won't go
through
through
the
Rita.
income tax.
It will not go through Rita, that's my question. It will not go through Rita.
I mean, Rita is our collector, but I'm just trying to.
Well, that's my point. If it gets.
So Rita collects the money for us,
And then,
yes.
and the state's gonna get their share of what they want. Which is what's gonna boil down to, with this House Bill 5. That's what
Yeah.
Does it come, okay, my check, I get paid. Does my check, my tax come straight to this city, or does it go to Rita?
Goes to Rita.
It goes to Rita, but Rita then gives it to us. So they're just the
Which my
collector.
employer doesn't take Rita out, so,
So then you have to
I get-
estimate your own payments,
yeah, and then
right?
all of a sudden they throw this, now you're gonna tell me $500 more. Okay, yeah, I like this one. Yeah, I really like this one.
No, Willie, let me clarify one. If you live in the city of Steubenville and you work in a city that does not charge an income tax, like Weir doesn't charge an income tax,
They
right?
take income tax out.
Do they?
They do, and they do, and my employer does not take Rita out of my tax. I have to,
If you work in a city that does not charge an income tax, and there are some cities out there, then your tax will not go up under this plan. If you work in a city that does charge income tax, your tax is going to go up. You're going to pay 1.5%, or maybe more, because depending on the credit. And if you work in the city of Steubenville and you live in the city of Steubenville, your tax is not going up.
but I don't.
Well, Willie brings up a good point, because my wife works for the federal government, so we have to pay quarterly, because and it's estimated that every year it's the same thing. We have to pay more at the end of the year. Is that what you're trying to say?
Where's your wife work?
For the
City
federal
or-
government, for the post
in
office.
Steubenville.
Yeah, they don't take it out.
Well, her tax is not going up.
No, I understand that. Well, but I'm saying, every reader will take out all the taxes, right? Am I right?
Well, we don't know what house, it's premature to get into what House Bill 5 is going to do, because we don't know how it's all really going to end up.
It's not done yet.
Right, so, and we can speculate, but we'll waste a lot of time.
All right, now. Still more questions on it, that's, keep discussing it.
Right.
But I know Jim, you wanted a minute, and then from there I'm going to end the meeting because we're running into the mayor's meeting. I don't want to say
Thank you.
the mayor's does.
Thank you, Greg. Just, I guess, three things very quickly. One item on the agenda, safety levy or safety wage tax. Again, if that item is going to be on the May ballot, it would have to go to the Board of Elections in February. So I think in January, we need to have our decision made on that and how we're going to approach that, and certainly the administration will provide any information needed. But I would ask council if in any discussion, we'd be happy to discuss that with them and what our, I think Stacy provided some future funding sources and kind of outlines what the safety levy or wage tax would generate if it was passed. Second, it's certainly, I'm disappointed to bring up, but I understand that obviously this will be Stacy's last finance committee meeting, and you know, I've said everything that I think I need to say in the media, and but I just wanted to reiterate the great job that she's done and thank her for her assistance to me and her efforts. And then finally, Stacy is leaving December 31st. I think we need an interim finance director. I can't wear too many more hats. So I would ask that council consider a law director's stopping me here.
By charter, you are the interim finance director.
I understand, but
He wants some help.
I want some help. I understand, but we've got some issues with
Mr. Bolin, you can administratively have the Dave Lewis assume the responsibility with your oversight, but you can't really relinquish those responsibilities as outlined in the charter.
Understand. But I guess we need to talk about then, Gary, what Mr. Lewis can do for us and to what extent. That's what I have. Checks, processing, we just need to do it right. So, that's all I had. That's my minute.
It's done, and I'm going to ask for adjournment of this meeting.
Can I just follow on?
Yeah, sure you can.
I would, I think it would be safe to say though that if Mr. Bolin feels comfortable with assuming that responsibility with the oversight as outlined in the charter, he has that flexibility to do so.
Correct.
And naming Mr. Lewis for signatures and checks and balances purposes also.
Yeah, he just wants someone to oversee that particular department until a new director's in place. Motion for adjournment.
Second.
Thank you.
Very well.